Starting that, I would like to take some 5-10 minutes in order to discuss in relation to the context. On this Monday, all of us had celebrated the festival known as Bhadra Purnima. So just let us spend 5 to 10 minutes in relation to this Bhadra Purnima festival. So this was the poster which was circulated all over ISKCON, and different temples made different posters, etc. And devotees were recommended that okay, they can do charities on this particular day. All the devotees and well-wishers, they can actually sponsor one Bhagavatam set to different devotees, etc. And they always quote this verse, one verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is mentioned that if on the full moon day of the month of Bhadra, one places Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne and gives it as a gift, he will attain the supreme transcendental destination. This is from 12th canto, 13th chapter, 13th verse. Just a couple of minutes, let us see what this verse is actually speaking to us. So this verse comes in the Bhagavatam, 12th canto. Prausthapadyam Paurnamasyam Hemasimha Samanvitam Dadatiyo Bhagavatam Sayati Paramam Gatim. If on the full moon day of the month of Bhadra, one places the Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne and gives it as a gift, he will attain the supreme destination. So currently we are going through Bhadrapada Mas, and just 3 days back we had Purnima, the full moon day on Monday. In the temple we also had a small Bhagavat Yajna. Some devotees who sponsored Bhagavatam, they all were invited to temple and they were seated in the performance of the Yajna. So here it says that Hemasimha Samanvitam, Bhagavatam should be kept on a Hemasimha, golden throne, and it should be worshipped. So the understanding, the technical understanding which Acharya has actually explained is that the sun every month moves from one zodiac sign to other zodiac sign. Somewhere in the middle of April, around April 16th or April 17th, sun enters into Mesha Rashi. Then Vrishabha, Mithuna, Kanya, etc. Like that. In this particular month, according to our English calendar, in the middle of this month, around 16th or 17th, the sun actually enters into Simha Rashi. So Simha is lion, and it is generally we hear that the throne of the king is called Simhasan, the sitting place of lion. The king is compared to the lion-like personality, etc. Even in our ISKCON also, many places, the Prabhupada's asan also has lions on the both sides. So Srila Prabhupada also seated on Simhasan, something like that, lion guru, lion-like guru, etc. And in relation to sun, while sun is traveling in that Simha Rashi or Leo, so sun is said to be situated in the throne made up of lion, something like that. Just like the sun, who is the king among all the planets, is situated in Simha Rashi during this month of Bhadra. Similarly, the Srimad Bhagavatam, who is king among all the Puranas, who is lion-like Purana, should be seated on golden throne and should be worshipped on this particular day. And then it is mentioned that having kept Bhagavatam on a golden throne and having worshipped Bhagavatam in a royal way, Dadatiyo Bhagavatam, one should give that Bhagavatam which was worshipped, which was kept on the golden throne, which was worshipped in charity to a deserving person, not to anyone and everyone, but charity must be given to a deserving person. And that person who keeps Bhagavatam on the golden throne, who worships it, who gives it in charity, will go back home back to Godhead. Sayati Paramam Gatim, the supreme most destination he will attain. The internal understanding of this particular line, Dadatiyo Bhagavatam Sayati Paramam Gatim, is this. Srila Sukadeva Goswami, being requested by Parikshit Maharaj, began to narrate Srimad Bhagavatam, because Parikshit Maharaj had only 7 days, and that Bhagavatam was narrated for 7 days on the 7th day. the narration of Srimad Bhagavatam was completed and Sukadeva Goswami left from that place. And following the instructions of Srila Sukadeva Goswami, Srila Parikshit Maharaj contemplated upon the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and he gave up his body and he went back to Godhead. And immediately, as the curse was pronounced by Shringi, the son of Shamika Rishi, the snake bird Takshaka came there and he bit the body of Parikshit Maharaj. After Parikshit Maharaj left the body, then the Takshaka came and he bit. So the body of Parikshit Maharaj burned to ashes. That was the whole thing. So now the connection from that pastime, from the events in relation to Parikshit Maharaj to this verse is that on the day of Bhadra Purnima, the Bhagavatam recitation by Sukadeva Goswami was completed. And meditating upon the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, following the instructions of Sukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj went back to Godhead. And that Parikshit Maharaj heard this Bhagavatam for the last 7 days. Following in the footsteps of Parikshit Maharaj and Srila Sukadeva Goswami, any person, whoever, by keeping Srimad Bhagavatam on the royal throne, Simhasana, for the last 7 days and worshipping it regularly, the worship should consist of both the ways. One is worshipping it just like we worship the deity. The second one is worshipping Srimad Bhagavatam through our oral deception. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam attentively with complete dedication throughout the day for the last 7 days. And that hearing and serving the Bhagavatam must complete on Bhadra Purnima. And then the Bhagavatam must be given in charity to a deserving person. So that was the whole idea about this verse. And whoever follows this particular custom, following in the footsteps of Srila Parikshit Maharaj, will become qualified to go back home back to Godhead, just like Parikshit Maharaj went back to Godhead. And so last point, if you trace backward, on Bhadra Purnima, the narration of Bhagavatam was complete and Parikshit Maharaj attained perfection. If you go back 7 days, so Bhagavatam might have started on Ashtami or Navami. And the last month, a week back, we had celebrated the appearance ceremony of Srimati Radharani on the Ashtami. So from that point of view, if you see, the narration of Srimad Bhagavatam by Sri Sukadeva Goswami and to Parikshit Maharaj might have started on Ashtami or Navami. So let us, for the timing, let us assume on Ashtami it started. And there could be sometimes the overlapping of Tithis, and in that way from Ashtami to Purnami, it will be 7 days only we can take. So Srimati Radharani, we all hear that she is Mahabhava Swarupini. She is the epitome of Bhakti. She is Bhakti personified. She is also called as Bhakti Devi. And Bhakti awarded to each and everyone through her mercy only. She is Bhakti personified. And on the appearance day of Srimati Radharani, the Bhagavatam, which is also Bhakti personified, its narration began by Srila Sukadeva Goswami and to Parikshit Maharaj. In the assembly of all the great sages of the entire universe, that was the first time that narration took place in the history, in the midst of all the great personalities of the entire universe. So in that way, the Bhagavatam manifested on that particular day through the lotus mouth of Srila Sukadeva Goswami. On the very auspicious appearance day of Srimati Radharani, it went on for 7 days. So that just kind of connection to Srimati Radharani's appearance day of Radhashtami and Bhadra Purnima. I just took a couple of minutes to explain that. So here it said that on Bhadra Purnima, Sukadeva Goswami completed the Bhagavatam. These details are mentioned in Uttarakanda Padma Purana. The king of all scriptures, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, the son among the Puranas, should be seated on the throne and treated royally on this particular day, throughout these 7 days. The king of all planets, the sun, enters into Simha Rashi or Leo zodiac sign during the month of Bhadra. Thus, it is like the king seated on the throne, Simhasana. Thus, on Bhadra Ashtami or Navami, Sukadeva Goswami started the recitation of Bhagavatam. So if you take Ashtami, its recitation began Radhashtami. So something like that. So thank you very much. So this is some connection to Bhadra Purnima. And hearing Bhagavatam, speaking Bhagavatam is very much important for all of us, the sadhakas. So in order to purify our heart, in order to get the eligibility to go back home back to Godhead, as Prabhuji was describing now. So in the previous weeks, we were discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 onwards. Though as a book, if you see Srimad Bhagavatam, the Canto 1 can be seen at the preface, where the subject matter of Bhagavatam has been indicated, that is Bhakti and Bhagavan for a Bhakta. And the circumstances under which the book was compiled, the Vasudev, who is the literary incarnation, compiled all the Vedas but still not satisfied. Then Narada Muni instructs him to compile that literature which continuously describe the glories of Bhagavan. Then he compiled Bhagavatam, that we understood. And the two important personalities in the Bhagavatam were Srila Parikshit Maharaj and Srila Sukadeva Goswami. And how and what, under what circumstances these two personalities came together to discuss Bhagavatam. That was also indicated in the first canto. And the second canto and the first 4 chapters of third canto are like the introduction to the entire book, wherein what is the subject matter that will be discussed elaborately in the entire book will be briefly summarized in the introduction. Similarly, we see that in the second canto, it talks about the greatness of Mahavishnu by explaining his creation pastimes, and it also introduces the pastimes of various Lila avatars and Shakti avatars in the 7th chapter. It also introduces that various questions asked by Parikshit Maharaj, answers to which is nothing but the rest of the Bhagavatam. And the Bhagavatam was very first time spoken by Srila Lord Narayana unto Lord Brahma in 4 verses. That was also indicated in 9th chapter. So, and then the same Bhagavatam contains 10 topics. That was also mentioned in the 10th chapter. And later on, the principal subject matter of entire Bhagavatam is Krishna Leela, which was briefly introduced in the first 4 chapters of third canto. So these 14 chapters act as introduction. And from the 5th chapter onwards, the 10 topics of Bhagavatam are one after the other discussed in the subsequent 10 cantos. Third canto elaborates on the topic called Sarga, the primary creation by Lord Vishnu, and wherein there are 2 subject matters are elaborately mentioned: the process of creation and the purpose of creation. In starting from chapter 5 to chapter 20, we hear about the process of creation, wherein the primary creation by Lord Vishnu and the secondary creation of all the variety of living entities by Lord Brahma are briefly discussed. And from chapter 21 to 33, the purpose of creation is indicated by discussing the teachings of the birth and teachings of Lord Kapila, wherein we understand that the universe has been created to facilitate Jiva's enjoyment, and the universe has been created to facilitate Jiva's liberation. So Jiva attains liberation by following the sadhanas mentioned by Lord Kapila. Lord Kapila briefly describes about karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti. Following those sadhanas, Jiva can attain perfection. And then Canto 4 and Canto 5, the first half of Canto 5 talks about when a Jiva takes on to a sadhana, what are the different obstacles might come on the path of Jiva's sadhana. So all the different difficulties, different obstacles are explained through various pastimes. And also the way out of all these difficulties is also explained through the prayers of all the wonderful devotees such as Dhruva Maharaj, Prutu Maharaj, Prachetas, etc., etc. The way out of all the difficulties is to keep ourselves in the association of devotees. It is only by keeping ourselves in the midst of devotees we can get out of all the obstacles that might come in the life of a sadhaka, in our life. That was also discussed. And then the second half of 5th canto talks about sthana. After creation, the Lord is supposed to maintain the universe. How Lord maintains the living entities and all in the entire universe is kind of presented in the second half of 5th canto that we have seen. And then in the 6th canto, the next topic, Poshana. Of course, though Lord maintains living entities in general, but Lord shows special favor upon his wonderful devotees. So how Lord shows his special favor to his devotees is presented in the 6th canto by describing the pastimes of Ajamila, the pastimes of Indra, the pastimes of Chitraketu Maharaj, and the pastimes of Diti. Though knowingly or unknowingly they committed some mistakes and they had deviated from the path of bhakti, but the Supreme Lord gave them second chance so that they can correct themselves and they can go back home back to Godhead. Ajabila, who became so much attracted to sinful life, but by chanting Narayana, he attracted the causeless mercy of Vaishnava, four Vishnudutas, and he also got some more lifespan, because of which he went to Haridwar and perfected and performed bhakti and perfected his life. He went back to Godhead. Daksha, though he was attached to material name and fame, Lord Vishnu engaged him in the service of creation. Indra, who neglected his guru Bruhaspati and even killed another guru Vishwarupa, but Lord Vishnu gave him second chance to correct himself. He corrected himself going through severe austerities, etc., etc. King Chitraketu, who initially was attached to bigger children, later on becoming Vidyadhara, wandering in the ether. Once he laughed at Lord Shiva and being cursed by Mother Parvati became Utrasura, and being killed by Indra went back to Godhead, something like that. And Diti, who took shelter of anger and revenge to kill Indra for the death of her two sons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So in order to kill Indra, she approached her husband to prescribe a proper method to get a son who can kill Indra. But Kashyapa Muni tricked her to perform Pumshavana Vrata. As a result of that, she gave birth to 49 Marus, who later on became Devatas, step brothers of Indra, assistants of Indra in the universal maintenance. So like that, all these people, though they deviated from the path of bhakti, but by giving them second chance, the Supreme Lord made them a chance to correct themselves, something like that. So that's how Lord Vishnu had special affection towards his devotees. He always looks after their well-being. So now let us get into Canto 7. So now the scene is like this. In the third canto, we have understood that the living entities comes to material world in order to enjoy, separate from the Supreme Lord. But Lord does not want the jivas to remain here. So the Supreme Lord provided all the Vedic literatures, taking shelter of which we understand that we need to follow Nishkama Karma or Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga or Bhakti Yoga in order to go back to Godhead. So after taking to those sadhanas, in our daily life, we might come across so many difficulties. And by the pastimes of 4th canto and 5th canto, we also understand that how to overcome those difficulties. And even while executing our sadhana, we may commit some mistakes sometimes. And 6th canto explains that even though we sadhaka might commit mistakes, but the Supreme Lord gives second chance. So we need to correct ourselves and should not commit mistakes once again. Now, in the 7th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam tells us that how by taking shelter of a support system, we should actually progress in our life. From the state of Hiranyakashipu's consciousness to the state of Prahlad Maharaj's consciousness, Hiranyakashipu is a best example for complete atheistic mentality. A person of 100% atheistic mentality. And Prahlad Maharaj is an example of 100% devotee. So how we can raise our consciousness from the Hiranyakashipu's mentality to Prahlad's mentality? That is the subject matter of 7th canto. And the topic that is described in the 7th canto is Utaya or Uti. So this canto has begun with a question raised by Parikshit Maharaj unto Sukadeva Goswami. Having heard the pastime of Diti with a desire to kill Indra, approached Kashyapa, and Kashyapa tricked her to perform Kumshavana Vrata, and eventually she begot 49 Marus. Taking that as a reference, Parikshit Maharaj asked these questions. How did the Lord, the best friend of all living entities, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu Name Dveshu Sina Priya, I am equal to everyone, I envy no one, I am not friendly to anyone, who is equal and affectionate to all beings, kill the demons for Indra as if partial to Devatas. By the request of Indra, Lord Vishnu siding Devatas killed Hiranyaksha by becoming Lord Varaha and killed Hiranyakashipu by becoming Lord Narasimha. And Diti, having lost her two sons, became so envious and vengeful that she wanted to beget a son who can kill Indra. Because it is for Indra's sake, Lord Vishnu appeared and killed Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So taking that as a clue, how can the Supreme Lord Vishnu, supposed to be impartial, became partial and sided Indra and killed both Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu? So this was the doubt in the heart of Parikshit Maharaj. So in order to answer this query of Parikshit Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami speaks the next topic, Uti. Utaya Karma Vasana. The impetus for activity is the desire for fruitive work. Why all of us, me, you and everyone, performing various activities? We perform various activities to become happy. Utaya Karma Vasana. And why we perform only certain activities, why not other activities? We are impelled by our previous karmas, previous karma vasanas. The impetus the reason to perform activities to become happy, to be enjoy. But why the reason to perform certain activities is we are impelled by our previous karma vasanas. So that is indicated in this Canto 7. The impetus for activity is the desire for fruitive work. Uti refers to the impressions created by the jivas actions which led them to future births. Our impressions are our desires in the previous lives are the cause of our current birth and our future births. So in that way, pious or impious acts become the cause of future happiness and distress. If we have performed pious activities in our previous lives, we get happiness in the current and future lives. If we have performed impious activities in our previous lives or in the current life, we get distress in the current life or in the future lives. So that is how we are forcefully developed our psychophysical nature and performing activities according to our likes and dislikes and get happiness or distress. So in this Canto 7, Srimad Bhagavatam describes the glories of Shuddha Bhaktas, that is glories of Prahlad Maharaj, and the glories of Mishra Bhaktas, and the persons having jnana mixed with jnana or yoga or karma mixed with little bhakti. So this Bhagavatam talks about the psychophysical nature, the reason to perform various activities such as Shuddha Bhakti or Mishra Bhakti or Jnana, Karma or Yoga is those activities that we have performed in our previous lives. Utaya Karma Vasana. So this canto, initially, Srila Sukadeva Goswami dispels the doubt about the partiality in Lord Vishnu. So Srila Sukadeva Goswami says that Lord Vishnu is neither partial nor impartial. He is simply reciprocal. Just by hearing the pastime that Lord Vishnu sided the Devatas and appeared as Lord Varaha and killed Hiranyaksha and appeared as Lord Narasimha and killed Hiranyakashipu, apparently seems that he is siding the Devatas. He is siding Indra, the king of the Devatas. but it is not so. The Supreme Lord Vishnu has the responsibility to maintain the universe. The universe is made up of three modes of material nature. Throughout the universe, whichever mode is prominent, Lord Vishnu favors those people who are situated in that particular mode. When the mode of ignorance becomes prominent, Lord Vishnu, the maintainer of the entire universe, will favor the people in the mode of ignorance. The example given is the Rakshasas. When the mode of passion becomes prominent, then Lord Vishnu favors the people who are situated in the mode of passion. When the mode of goodness becomes prominent, then Lord Vishnu favors the people in the mode of goodness. So Lord Vishnu is simply favoring the modes. So it is up to the people who are living in the universe to make their particular mode prominent. When the Rakshasas and Asuras become prominent and powerful, they make their modes prominent. Then Lord Vishnu, as the maintainer of the universe, simply supports that mode to flourish. As a result of that, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, people like that become the kings of the universe, the kings of heaven, and they dethrone Indra and rule over the heavenly abodes and other abodes. But when the pure devotees take shelter of Lord Vishnu and they completely surrender unto the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, by their bhakti, when they increase the mode of goodness, Lord Vishnu appears in various avatars and destroy all these demoniac elements and again reinstate the people of mode of goodness on the throne of heaven, making them as the rulers of entire heaven. So here neither Lord is supporting Devatas nor supporting Asuras. He is simply supporting the modes which become prominent from time to time. It is up to the people who are living in the universe to make their mode prominent. So for this reason, Srila Prabhupada writes many places in the first canto of Bhagavatam in his commentaries that it is the principal activity of ISKCON movement in general, or ISKCON movement in particular, or devotees in general, to sustain or maintain the mode of goodness in the universe. By bhakti activities, we are actually sustaining the mode of goodness in the universe, because of which the mode of goodness activities can go on for long. Otherwise, the Kali Yuga, the mode of passion and mode of ignorance are so prominent that mode of goodness can become invisible. But by bhakti activities, the devotees can keep its astitva, its existence, so that it can continue on. It can be maintained for a long time to come ahead. So that was the whole idea. So all the devotees need to practice bhakti very sincerely, so that the mode of goodness can retain its astitva, its existence, something like that. So then, in order to explain how Lord is impartial, how Lord enables people to perform their activities in order to attain their perfection, etc., Srila Sukadeva Goswami narrates a pastime that took place immediately after Rajasuya sacrifice in Indraprastha, where Srila Yudhishthira Maharaj also asked somewhat similar question, and Srila Narada Muni answered him in the presence of Lord Krishna in that assembly of Rajasuya sacrifice, wherein after witnessing the liberation of Shishupal and hearing the liberation of Dantavakra, Yudhishthira Maharaj asked a question to Narada Muni, Srila Narada Muni, that how is it that Shishupal, who is envy personified, also attained liberation, being killed by Lord Krishna himself? How merciful the Lord is. So here Yudhishthira Maharaj is saying that the Lord not only gives liberation to the devotees, he also gives liberation to the most envious personalities such as Shishupal and Dantavakra. So Lord has no trace of partiality. Lord is completely impartial. He is ready to give liberation to anyone and everyone. That was the understanding and the conclusion and the inquiry of Yudhishthira Maharaj. This question seems to be completely opposite to the question of Parikshit Maharaj. But we have to combine these two queries and understand the nature of Lord. As Parikshit Maharaj said, the Supreme Lord Vishnu is not partial. As Yudhishthira Maharaj said, Supreme Lord Vishnu is not impartial. He is neither partial nor impartial. He is actually reciprocal to everyone. Ye yatamam prapadyante tam staiva bhajamaham. As we approach Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Lord reciprocates with us. So that is the understanding he is presented from this section of Bhagavatam. So, in order to help us understand how Shishupal attained liberation, so Srila Narada Muni narrates that this Shishupal Dantavakra were actually Jaya Vijaya, who were cursed by 4 Kumaras. As a result of that curse, they are supposed to appear in this world 3 times. They appeared first time as Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, second time as Ravana, Kumbhakarna, third time as Shishupal Dantavakra, and now being killed by Lord Krishna, they have attained perfection and they regained their position as the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha. They went back home, back to Godhead. So while narrating the 3 births of Jaya and Vijaya in this material world in the form of Asuras, he mentions at one point of time that Hiranyakashipu tortured his devoted son in order to kill him. So when he heard that, he remembered it. After the end of the first chapter, Yudhishthira Maharaj raises a question. Why did Hiranyakashipu hated his beloved devotee son, Prahlad Maharaj? When a son is obedient and devoted, the father naturally becomes affectionate to that son. How could a father like Hiranyakashipu hated a devotee like a humble and obedient son like Prahlad Maharaj? It seems improper. So that was the inquiry of Yudhishthira Maharaj. So in order to answer this question, why Hiranyakashipu became hateful of humble, submissive, devoted son Prahlad? The reason is Hiranyakashipu had hatred towards Lord Vishnu. Because Prahlad Maharaj was the devotee of Lord Vishnu, since Hiranyakashipu had hatred towards Lord Vishnu, Hiranyakashipu hated his devoted son, his obedient son, Prahlad, just because he is a devotee of Lord Vishnu. And how could Hiranyakashipu develop hatred towards Lord Vishnu? Because his younger brother, Hiranyaksha, was killed by Lord Vishnu. Hiranyaksha was fighting with different devatas, and all the devatas surrendered to Hiranyaksha. But Lord Vishnu, siding the devatas, killed Hiranyaksha in an improper way. Thinking like that, Hiranyakashipu made up his mind that instructing all his army, saying that all of you go to throughout the world, defeat the devatas and defeat the kings, whoever, and destroy the yajna performances and destroy all the brahmanas, whoever performing different way of worships in order to worship Lord Vishnu. Wherever Lord Vishnu's worship is going on, go and destroy everything. Go and cause trouble to the devatas. Go and cause trouble to the devotees. Destroy the brahmanas, destroy cows, destroy yajnas, everything. While you are doing that, I will go to mountain and perform austerities in order to gain powers to kill Vishnu. Because Vishnu is nourished by yajna. Yajna is accomplished by the brahmanas and cows. Because cows give ki and yajnas chant mantras and pour ghee in the fire sacrifice, and yajna is accomplished by which the devatas are nourished. By the nourish of devatas, by the performance of yajna, Vishnu is nourished. If the yajna is not performed, if the devatas are not nourished, the Vishnu becomes weak. Then Vishnu can be defeated easily and can be killed easily. That was the thought process of Hiranyakashipu. And thinking thus, he went to Vindhya mountains and performing so many severe austerities. And then the Devatas informed Lord Brahma that Hiranyakashipu was performing severe austerities with the sole desire to become the king of the entire universe. He wanted to dethrone you. He is worshipping you, dethrone you by getting the blessings to become immortal. Kindly do the needful. Don't give the blessings in such a way that Hiranyakashipu becomes immortal. Something like that. The Devatas put their petition in front of Lord Brahma. But Hiranyakashipu was performing so much severe austerities that the entire universe was troubled by the fire emanating from the body of Hiranyakashipu. Then immediately Lord Brahma appeared in front of Hiranyakashipu and rejuvenated his body and requested him to ask for benediction. That time Hiranyakashipu says that I want to become immortal. Then Lord Brahma says that I myself is not immortal. I am subjected to time. Please ask for something else. Then Hiranyakashipu put forward so many conditions that I should not be killed by this living entity, that living entity, this living entity, this weapon, that weapon, not in the daytime, not in the night time, not with this weapon, that weapon, like that. So not inside, not outside. So not touching the land, not in the sky. So many conditions that any living entity created by you, my dear Brahma, should not kill me. Any weapon created by you should not kill me. Any weapon all the way up to Brahmastra should not kill me. Anything living or dead should not kill me. My death should not happen inside the house or outside the house, in the morning, in the daytime or in the night time, on the surface of the earth or in the sky. He has put so many conditions that he will become immortal by default. That was the thought process of Hiranyakashipu. Understanding that Lord Vishnu can fulfill all the conditions, kill you. Thinking like that, kill him. Thinking like that, Lord Brahma said Tatasu. So be it. And then he disappeared. So thinking that he has become immortal, Hiranyakashipu subjugated all the Devatas, overpowered all the Devatas, put every Devata under his control. And he has become the whole sole proprietor of the entire 3 planetary systems, Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka and Swargaloka. He was seated on the throne of Indra and began to rule over the entire universe per se, in that sense. So that was the reason for the hatred towards Lord Vishnu. And then he began to search after Lord Vishnu in order to destroy Lord Vishnu completely. But he could not find Lord Vishnu anywhere. He traveled throughout the length and breadth of the entire universe. Lord Vishnu was not found anywhere. And he returned to heaven. And he was ruling from heaven. In the background, when Hiranyakashipu went to perform austerities, that time his wife Kayadu was pregnant. Indra and other Devatas kidnapped Kayadu, thinking that Hiranyakashipu's son might be another Hiranyakashipu. He will be a big trouble for the Devatas. So let us kidnap Kayadu, let us wait for the birth of the child. After the birth of the child, let us kill that child so that we will be saved from the problems might be caused in the future. As they were taking Kayadu, on the way, Narada Muni comes and tells and informs the Devatas that so the son who is going to be born through the womb of Kayadu will be a great devotee. He will not be a trouble to you, Devatas. Understanding that he is a great devotee, immediately Indra and other Devatas offered obeisances to the son in the womb of Kayadu and circumambulated him, and then they went away. Then Narada Muni took the responsibility of taking care of Kayadu and her son, and he took her to his ashram. That time Kayadu made a request. So my dear sage, kindly give me this blessing that let me not give birth to my son until my husband comes home. So Narada Muni said, okay. So till then, you can stay in my ashram and take care of the necessities of ashram, no problem. And I will be discussing something with you. So throughout these years, Hiranyakashipu was performing austerities. After the austerities, he was traveling throughout the universe, waging war against all the devatas, and then searching after Lord Vishnu throughout the universe. Kayadu was staying in the ashram of Narada Muni and hearing Krishna Katha, Harikatha or Bhagavat Katha from the lotus mouth of Narada Muni. But unfortunately, Kayadu was thinking about her husband, Hiranyakashipu, that her husband might come today morning, today evening, today afternoon, like that. She could not pay attention to the Bhagavat Katha spoken by Narada Muni. But the child in the womb of Kayadu was very with rapt attention. He was hearing that Krishna Katha or Hari Katha or Bhagavat Katha coming out of the mouth of Narada Muni. And Narada Muni also understood that, okay, the son in the womb of Kayadu was hearing. So Narada Muni, though Kayadu was disturbed, she was not attentive, but still Narada Muni never stopped Bhagavat Katha. He continued understanding that the child in the womb was hearing Bhagavat Katha very nicely. Eventually, Hiranyakashipu, after understanding that he could not find Lord Vishnu anywhere, he inquired about the whereabouts of his wife. He understood that his wife is in the ashram of Narada Muni. He went and brought her back. And after that, she gave birth to children, Prahlad Maharaj, etc. And eventually, when Prahlad Maharaj grew up to the age of 4 or 5 or etc., he was sent to school. And then one day he was brought back, and then Hiranyakashipu, keeping his son Prahlad on his own lap and smelling the head of Prahlad, and he asked Prahlad, "Oh, my dear Prahlad, what did you learn in the school? Please tell me." Then Prahlad Maharaj told that, "Gatam Vanom, Gato, please go to forest and worship Lord Vishnu. My dear father, please give up the mentality of friends and enemy. Please go to the forest and serve Lord Vishnu and attain purification of the heart and go back home back to Godhead. That is the best thing that I have learned from the school of Narada Muni. Not from the school of Chanda and Amarka, but from the school of Narada Muni." So immediately Hiranyakashipu threw him down from his lap and he kind of scolded his son. "Oh, you rascal, where did you learn all these things?" And he called Chanda and Amarka, told them that, "What kind of teachers are you? What you taught all my son? You have destroyed the conscience of my son. You are teaching my son to become the devotee of Vishnu, who is my born enemy. It is not at all good." So because Prahlad spoke of devotional service to Lord Vishnu, because Hiranyakashipu already had so much hatred to Lord Vishnu because Lord Vishnu killed his younger brother Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu hated Prahlad Maharaj also. Something like that. And he warned Chanda and Amarka to teach Prahlad very nicely about politics and other things, etc. And Chanda Amarka took Prahlad to the school and taught him for so long and then brought him back. So they said that, "We have trained your son very nicely, very pakka in the politics." Then again, Hiranyakashipu asked, "Please tell me, what did you learn the best thing in the school?" That time Prahlad Maharaj says that, "Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Pada Sevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam, Iti Pumsharpita Vishnu Bhaktische Navalakshanam, Kriyate Bhagavati Adya, Tanmanne Aditam Uttamam." My dear father, among all the things that I have learned in the school of Narada Muni, the best thing is that one should engage 24/7 in the service of Lord Vishnu, either by performing Shravanam or Kirtanam or Vishnu or Smaranam or Padasevanam or Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam, Sakyam or Atma Nivedanam. One of these 9 things are all the 9 things. Engaging in these things 24/7 is the best thing that I have learned in the school. When Prahlad Maharaj told this, Hiranyakashipu became very much angry that, "Take this rascal away and kill him." The soldiers of Hiranyakashipu took Prahlad Maharaj and tried in so many different ways to kill Prahlad Maharaj. They gave him poison, they threw him from the cliff, they made an elephant to go on Prahlad Maharaj, and the snakes bite him, and so many ways they tried. But Prahlad was not killed in any time. He was saved under all circumstances. He was brought back to the father. They told, my dear king, we tried all 100,000s of ways, but we cannot kill him. He was always saved. Every time he was saved. Then Chanda and Amarka said that, no. So, my dear king, please give us one more opportunity. We will engage him in the service of our father, Shukracharya. By service, his heart can change. They took him back, but they were teaching all those things. But on the other hand, instead of learning from Chanda and Amarka, he is teaching about bhakti to his classmates. Eventually, when Chanda and Amarka understood that we cannot change his heart, just like iron is attracted to magnet, similarly, Prahlad is attracted to Lord Vishnu. So then, Hiranyakashipu asks Prahlad Maharaj, I am trying to kill you by various means, and you never become afraid of things, and you never become disrespectful towards me. You are always offering respects to me, and you always speak up Vishnu highly. Where from you are getting this strength? Where from you are getting this courage? Then Prahlad said that the same person who is giving you strength, giving me strength. Please surrender unto him. Please give up your hatred towards Lord Vishnu. Then Hiranyakashipu becomes so much angry that I will see that person whom you are glorifying so great that whether he will come to save you. Now I will kill you. I will see, will he come and save? And first of all, I would like to know where you can find Vishnu. I went throughout the universe. I could not find him. Where I can find him? Will he be there in this pillar? Then Prahlad Maharaj says that no, he is there everywhere. He is Sarvantaryami. He can be seen in the pillar also. He is there in the pillar also. Then he says that if he is there in the pillar, let me see. If he is there in the pillar, let me see that. Before killing you, let me kill him first, then I'll kill you. Then immediately with that angry mode, Hiranyakashipu hits on that pillar. Then bifurcating that pillar into two parts, Lord Vishnu appears in the most fearful form of Lord Narasimha, half man, half lion. Then roaring loudly, Lord Narasimha killed Hiranyakashipu there itself. And then, having accepted the prayers of the Devatas, the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj and the prayers of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, etc., etc., after blessing Prahlad Maharaj, after making Prahlad Maharaj as the king of 3 planetary systems, Lord Narasimha Dev disappears or departs from there. And Prahlad Maharaj, as generosity, gives the sovereignty over heaven to Indra. So like that, the wonderful and generous and devotional character of Prahlad Maharaj and the atheistic character of Hiranyakashipu has narrated in the first 10 chapters of 7th canto. And then, okay, in 10 chapters, the pure inclinations arising from the devotion to the Lord have been described. So basically, that bhakti was spoken by Narada Muni was the impetus to have the character of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj developed such kind of wonderful devotional character because he had heard from Narada Muni. And Hiranyakashipu developed so much envious nature towards Lord Vishnu and his devotees because in their previous life, Jaya and Vijaya were cursed by 4 Kumaras in angry mood, out of their anger. That anger was the impetus for the envious characteristics of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu in this life, something in that way. So now the question is that how can a person by practicing various sadhanas can raise their characteristics, can raise their consciousness from that of Hiranyakashipu to Prahlad Maharaj. That is the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. So in order to raise our consciousness from Hiranyakashipu's consciousness to Prahlad Maharaj's consciousness, we need to take shelter of Varnashrama system. Varnashrama will act as the shield for us to develop our consciousness. So what is that Varnashrama system? How we can progress our consciousness by taking shelter of Varna system is the subject matter of the remaining 5 chapters of 7th canto. In 5 chapters, the excellence of Varnashrama for material sustenance is now explained. Having explained great mercy at the cause of pure bhakti, in 5 chapters, Narada now explains Nishkama Karma Yoga at the cause of inclinations for a type of bhakti in the gunas. So, in 4 Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and in 4 ashramas, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi, how one can perform Nishkama Karma Yoga, which eventually take a person to practice Jnana Yoga, or Ashtanga Yoga, or mixed Bhakti Yoga, so that a person can attain liberation and go back home back to Godhead. That is narrated in the remaining 5 chapters. This section starts with a question made by Yudhishthir Maharaj. I wish to hear about the eternal dharma, that is Bhakti Yoga, and also about Varnashrama dharma, by which men achieves the supreme Lord. So mixed bhakti with a minor or major element of karma or jnana attained through a guru similar bhakti is talked about in these 5 chapters. How a person by taking shelter of a guru can understand about Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti Yoga and can attain perfection is taught in these 5 chapters. So by reading through these 5 chapters, we can understand that how by relying on the support system of Varnashrama, one can attain success in one's spiritual practices. Thus, Canto 7 describes the 3 kinds of people who populate the entire universe. The Shuddha Bhaktas, like Prahlad Maharaj, are of minority category in this universe. There are very few people who are practicing Shuddha Bhakti, like Prahlad Maharaj. There are very few. And the practitioners of hardcore atheism, like Hiranyakashipu, are also minority in this universe. But those people who are following Varna system practice mixed bhakti are majority in this universe. So we need to, we being part of the majority in this universe, we need to understand how we can progress in our spiritual life. So in this section, Sri Narada Muni talks about the duties of the Brahmana, duties of a Kshatriya, duties of a Vaishya, duties of a Shudra, duties of women, duties under apatkalina condition, and duties of a sannyasi, duties of a vanaprastha, duties of a grihastha, and the duties of a brahmachari. All these things are very nicely and very vividly described so that we can understand what to do, what not to do at our respective status according to our varna and our ashrama. So by taking shelter of this varna and ashrama, we according to our Guru Shishya Parampara, wherever we are, we can practice. We by practicing Karma Mishra Bhakti or Jnana Mishra Bhakti or Bhakti Mishra Karma or Bhakti Mishra Jnana, we can attain perfection of our life. That is raising our consciousness from deep tamoguna, that of Hiranyakashipu, to Shuddha platform, that of Prahlad Maharaj. So this is the subject matter of Canto 7. How we have to raise our consciousness from the lowest point to the highest point by taking shelter of one of the sadhanas that we have learned in the teachings of Lord Kapila, and being shielded by the support system known as Varnashrama system, we have to progress gradually in our path back home back to Godhead. So this is what we can learn from 7th canto. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So there was one question which had come up from 7th canto.
Yes, Prabhu.
So I would just like to ask you that this is a 7th canto read the verse also. 8.44.
Prabhuji, your voice is breaking. I could not follow what you are saying.
7.44.
Sorry, voice is breaking. So in the chart box, it is mentioned that 7.8.44.
Yes.
So
The first two lines, it explains the duty of a household to offer food for others. So, my question,
Sri Pitara Ochu. Prabhuji, what is the question? I could not hear you any word. Your words are completely broken. So here we have the verse on the screen. So what is the verse? What is the question?
so the question is, Prabhu, it is explained that the purport says, Prabhupada, it is a duty of all householders to offer food grains to all the departed forefathers.
Yes.
You know? But during the time of Hiranyakashipu, this process was stopped. No one would offer Shraddha oblations, grains to the forefathers. So what is our responsibility as a grahasthas? Are we supposed to offer food grains to our departed forefathers? This was my question to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for asking this question, Prabhuji. Currently, we are going through this Pitru Paksha. It just started on the Pratipad. It will continue all the way up to Amavasya. These 15 days are called Pitru Paksha. According to Vedic culture, as a grahastha, one may be a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. It is the responsibility of a grahastha that they need to offer Shraddha to the forefathers. Offer Shraddha in the name of forefathers. That is a compulsory duty for a grahastha. Unless until, as we read in Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, unless until a devotee becomes like a Babaji or Goswami, 100% completely dedicated to performing only devotional activities, nothing more than that, then they can be laid off from the responsibility of offering Shraddha. Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam Parihutya Kartum. 100% dedication to devotional service. They are living like the lifestyle of a Goswami. Then they don't need to perform. Otherwise, even as practicing devotees, even as part of ISKCON, if we are living as a grahasthas, we need to offer Shraddha rites in the name of our forefathers. Whether our forefathers are in Pitraloka or whether our forefathers are in heavenly planets, or whether our forefathers are in hell, or whether our forefathers already taken to some other species, in some other form of species, it is immaterial to us. But as long as we are living as a grahastha, it is our duty to offer Shraddha in the name of our deceased parents or grandparents or great-grandparents, in the name of our forefathers. This is very much required. We need to follow. This is a Vedic duty for a grahastha. We need to follow it very systematically without fail. And this Pitru Paksha is the time. There are some people offer Shraddha on the Tithi on the day the forefathers are passed away, our parents are passed away. Otherwise, in general, the people are recommended to offer Shraddha during this 14 days. So we need to follow that.
So, Prabhu, usually in the ISKCON lectures, we don't hear that, we need to do this, Pindadan or Pitra Paksha and all these things. So now, once you say it is a grahastha responsibility to do, so what is the way, how to do it?
So, Prabhuji, traditionally, whatever way our families have been following the custom, so that we need to follow, and we need to add our devotional activities to it, having some kirtan, having some Krishna Katha, and making it completely devotional. So this is my little understanding by hearing various lectures from His Grace Govinda Prabhu. Many times he used to talk about this importance of performing Shraddha rites for our deceased parents in our family, etc. So we need to follow traditional custom, plus we can have our devotional that we need to prepare bhoga, offer to the Lordship, then offer the prasads to our forefathers, and also we can have some kirtan and Krishna Katha, and then distributing Krishna Prasad to all the invited guests, if possible, some Brahmanas, etc., etc., Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, etc. So that we need to follow both the customs.
So, Prabhu, one of my concern is that many of the ritualistic way people have been doing, there is one option that people are not doing at all, because to be honest with you, I have spoken to many of the Brahmanas who do this kind of things. And since we are a follower of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, when I started speaking about the Supreme Lord, many of them were believing in the impersonal form of the Lord. So these so-called, these are Brahmanas, they are born by birth in a Brahman family, but the understanding of this is quite different. So now my question to you is, when a kind of impersonalist kind of born Brahmana, if he's doing all this kind of shraddha, so that is that has been doing, probably some families must be doing this as a ritual, some must be not doing at all. So my question is, instead of all these things, if we just focus on hearing, chanting, kirtan, prasad, we can call the Vaishnavas, feed them and give donation to the cows and give donation to the temple and feed the brahmacharis. I mean, that kind of parallel thing. I was just thinking, what is your opinion about it?
See, Prabhuji, my understanding is that, of course, that kind of system can be maintained by a devotee completely 100% surrendered, not a problem. But in the society, living as a grasa, in order to set a good example in the society, in order to retain the religious principles of our Sanatana Dharma, we also need to do in Vedic way, along with Pancharatriki way. Yadyat acharati shrestha tat eva itaro jana. A brahmachari, vanaprastha and sannyasi are relieved from this responsibility, but it is the responsibility of grasa need to perform it in a Vedic way. And as you have mentioned that we do not have proper brahmanas, and as an institution, it is a important duty to train ourselves as brahmanas. We need to have our own brahmanas who can perform all these ceremonies, all these samskaras in our home in a proper, bona fide Vedic and Vaishnavite way. And it is not that our institution has started one day back or 1 year back. We have already completed 50 years. And it is long time that we need to train our own brahmanas who can perform all these samskaras. Not only Shraddha rites, we need to perform all the samskaras starting from Garbhadana samskar. Garbhadana samskar, Jatakarma ceremony, Namakarma ceremony, Shika Utana ceremony, Shika Mundana ceremony, Upanayana ceremony. All these samskaras are very much important in developing our consciousness, developing the consciousness of our children. So we need to develop our own systems. We need to train our own people in the performance of all the samskaras. So there is no alternative way for this.
Okay, thank you very much. My question is solved. So thanks a lot for your opinion on this. It was a great help. So thank you, Prabhu. So we meet again next week on 29th of Wednesday. We'll have the same timing for your class, Prabhu. So we are very, very grateful. So loudly chanting 3 times Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on Bhagavatam. I'm grateful to all of you. Hare Krishna.
Should I end class, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.